Hello everyone, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Christopher Ruckus at Space Jam 23 DFS. We're breaking down tonight's short slate of action on FanDuel for you here. And for once, we actually have some legitimate pitching options on a short slate, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But also some guys that can be and have been pummeled so far this season. So definitely some offensive fireworks in store as well tonight, Chris.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. Just looking at going down the list on FanDuel, first game's Oakland at the Angels. Not really targeting pitching in this game. Obviously, Mike Trout, really good baseball player, 5,700, super expensive, which will be tough if when we get to pitching, we'll be talking about Chris Sale possibly tonight as an option. Mike Trout's hard to fit. Cole Calhoun batting leadoff against Jesse Chavez, most likely 3,700. I really like his price, and I really like Albie Pujols' price at 3,600.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And this one's a pick 'em, so like you said, not a whole lot that you want out of pitchers here. And it is an 8-run total in a pitcher's park, so that's saying that Vegas is expecting some runs. So obviously those guys you mentioned certainly in play. On the Oakland side, catchers are really thin position, so I'll probably be looking at Stephen Vogt at $3,500 for the most part there. Outside of him on the Oakland side, I'm not in love with a lot of these guys. If you need a cheap first baseman, Ike Davis should have a nice lineup spot against a righty tonight. He's been a nice cash game play, not showing a whole lot of upside, but he should be a nice filler for you. And I mean, outside of that, if you're going to go with a little bit of a contrarian stack, or if you're going to stack Angels even, I mean, David Freese is still really cheap at $3,200 tonight.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think all games actually warrant a stack tonight. And I'll talk about that later because no one will say to stack the Royals against Chris Sale, but we'll get to that at the end of the podcast.
All right. And speaking of that, next game on the docket here, we have Baltimore at Toronto. And now this is the game you're going to want to get yourself a lot of exposure to tonight because we've got a -125 favorite for Drew Hutchison, but an 8.5 run total. It's in the Rogers Center. Both offenses have been putting up runs, and Drew Hutchison, for one, has been absolutely awful. Had a good first start this year on opening day, and then since then faced off against this same Baltimore team and got shelled over 4 1/3 innings. Scored just 2.33 fantasy points. Got beaten around by Atlanta. Hasn't made it through 5 innings in either of his last 2 starts. So I think this is the game. Stack both sides. Get yourself some exposure. Jose Bautista sat out last night with I don't know what you want to call it. Being scared of Ubaldo Jimenez is what I'm going to call it. I mean, I think that they had some better term for it. They said a strain in his shoulder. I think it had to do with the fact that he was, 2 for 30 against Ubaldo Jimenez, something like that. And we've seen some plunk fests there before. They were worried he would get tagged. Got a little bit of weird things going on. Jose Reyes batting only from the right side right now to protect his ribs. So that's a little strange to see that. But at the same time, I really think that both of these sides, everybody in play. Devin Travis on fire. If you had him last night, he was a nice punt play. Hit another home run, his 4th of the season. Stole a base as well. So at a weak position, he's in play. Jimmy Paredes had a great game again. If he has another nice lineup spot, I don't mind him either. But of the two, I still prefer Travis. How about you?
Let me see something. Paredes is 2,700. What's Travis's price? 2,800. Okay, so essentially a pick 'em. What I think would be interesting to do is you run your stacks. You run your Baltimore stack with Paredes. You run your Toronto stack with Travis, and then you flip-flop. So you run your Toronto stack with Jimmy and your Baltimore stack with Travis. It's a nice way to get contrarian on a short slate.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And not a whole lot of great options at second base, so getting one of these guys at under 3K just makes a lot of sense tonight. Both should be batting around second in the order. Paredes, obviously not a lock to be in that spot, but Travis seems like he should be right there in the 2-hole again. And Josh Donaldson, he had that little nice run there for a couple days, hit 3 homers and over a span of 2 nights, then had a couple duds, but I mean, a weak third base position tonight. I think Josh Donaldson at 4,500. If you're going to pay, I mean, he's got to be the guy you're paying for there, right?
Yeah, there's no point in paying for anybody else. I mean, if you're paying at third, that's who you're buying.
Yeah, completely agree there. And looking at the outfield for these guys, bunch of guys in play. Alejandro De Aza, just $2,900 leading off against Hutchison. Easy play there. combo of speed and power. He's got a great price. Travis Snyder as well. If he's batting right around 5th, he's at 29. And then the obvious guys in play. Adam Jones, I prefer to pay $5K for, or he's 4.9. Prefer to pay big dollars for him against a lefty, but I don't mind him against a righty, especially on a short slate also. And Steve Pearce is a guy that I probably won't be playing much outside of stacks because he really is a lefty masher and hasn't been doing a whole hell of a lot this year. Really off to a pretty bad start. Just 7 for 46 so far. So I think in some stacks I'm going with him, but I think I'd rather go down to Diaz or Snyder if I stand alone.
Yeah, no, agree. The only player you didn't mention who I don't mind, just because he's been hitting the ball well, getting on base, is Dalton Pompey. Disclaimer on the last name. But, you know, he's been playing well. He's 3,200, and I feel like he goes under-owned every night, and we've seen his upside. He's had a couple 8-point games this season already. So I do not mind him at all tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more guy to mention here. Well, you're obviously going to consider Edwin Encarnacion anytime. He gets on those hot streaks. He's got huge upside. You're going to need upside on a short slate. Not a lot of guys are going to homer. So we've said it before. If you need to have power in your lineups on a short slate, because if there's only 4 guys who hit home runs tonight out of the eight teams that are playing, and you don't have any of those, you do not win any money. So get yourself some power. Justin Smoke hit a homer last night at 2,700. So I'm not going to be chasing that. But if you need a punt play at first base, you could do a lot worse than him. Either way, a lot of guys in play here in this game. All right, next up, Boston at Tampa Bay. And this one's going to be interesting. We've seen Clay Buchholz be dominant. We've seen him be absolutely terrible. Jake Odorizzi, pretty much the same thing. So that's not to say I don't have confidence in either guy. But for me, if you got to pick one of the two, I still prefer as a pitcher Odorizzi. But on tonight's slate, I think it's got to be Buchholz because that Boston lineup, really formidable. I don't want to be targeting those guys a whole lot. Odorizzi last year, terrible 29% ground ball rate, but this year so far up to 43. So if he really has fixed that, that was his biggest weakness. He's a nice strikeout pitcher, 24% last year. So if he can continue to keep the ball on the ground, I love him in tournaments. And I think a lot of people will be scared off him in that Boston matchup tonight. So I don't mind going that route, but I think that Buchholz makes for the safer option in this matchup.
Yeah, clearly, Odorizzi will probably be the lowest owned.
Yeah.
But I love him. I mean, he went up against a Toronto team that hits well, 14 fantasy points. You know, Baltimore has shown their ability to hit the ball, 17 fantasy points. The only, I mean, he hasn't pitched bad this season.
No, he's been great.
Yeah, he's actually been amazing. So I think he's a great play tonight. He's my top GPP play. Clay Buchholz, obviously, I mean, he's up and down, but he faces a much weaker lineup. I'm more interested from a hitter angle. Who's batting leadoff? David DeJesus. You got to get some cheap outfield, outfield power. He can hit the long ball, so I like DeJesus, 2,800. And Kiermaier is right near him. I know you have a love for him.
Yes, I do.
But if you take a look at DeJesus' game logs, I was shocked when I saw it. I mean, 1 negative game this season, 1, and he only had 1 at-bat that game. I mean, the guy's been putting the ball in play, hitting home runs, getting hits, getting runs, RBIs. He's doing everything. I don't know, he's going to regress, obviously, but 2,800 against Buchholz at home, batting first or second, I'll take him.
Yeah, I mean, whichever one of those guys is at the top of the order, as it kind of seems the trend is recently. I'm still having affinity for Kiermaier, but I don't mind playing DeJesus if he's the one up there. And Steven Souza, I believe it is, if he's in the lineup, I mean, this guy's just mashing the ball right now. Got 4 home runs already on the season, 3 doubles as well. I mean, he's been batting in this 2-hole right ahead of Evan Longoria. So ahead of Asdrubal Cabrera and then Evan Longoria. But either way, batting a 2-hole, showing some power. He's getting some hits. I mean, if you look at his last 8 games, he's got 5 multi-hit games. 2 of those were 3-hit games. So, I mean, the guy's getting it done. 3,900 will probably keep his ownership level pretty low tonight on this slate. But I don't mind going that route either.
No, disclaimer. I believe he left the game early last night. I'm not certain of it.
Forearm cramp, they said.
Forearm cramp.
So,
all right, then.
So if assuming that he's in the lineup, I guess I should leave your disclaimer there and say monitor that and make sure he's in the lineup. But from the things that I've seen, doesn't look like it's too serious. But I'm obviously not a doctor. I'm just reading things on Twitter. So if he's in the lineup, I'll certainly be playing him. But if not, maybe we see DeJesus and Kiermaier up 1-2, and maybe they both make for nice values. So we'll monitor that situation as the day goes on. And if I'm playing cash games tonight, I'm not going to be targeting a lot of Boston guys because, like I said, I do think Odorizzi, he's one of my favorite GPP pitchers, probably my favorite for tonight, along with you. And he's got great upside, and he's pitching tremendous right now. So I'm not going to be targeting him with any of these guys in cash games. But in tournaments, I mean, all these guys are in play, of course. David Ortiz, still way too cheap. $3,500 against a guy who hasn't been a fly ball pitcher this year, but is still a fly ball pitcher throughout his career. So I think Ortiz makes for a great tournament. Obviously, Boston's going to make for a great tournament stack again.
Yeah.
All right, last game we have here, Kansas City at the Chicago White Sox. Here's where you want your pitcher if you're paying up in cash games. Obviously, Chris Sale, the top option on the board, not particularly close. 7-run total is also the lowest on the day. And he's minus 140 favorite here. And, I mean, Chris Sale, he's head and shoulders above the rest of these pitchers, if you ask me. He's one of the best arms in the entire game. And, I mean, he's off to a great start this season. I mean, his first 2 games, 17 fantasy points, 14 fantasy points. Last one against Detroit, 6 Ks, only 4 hits in 6 innings. So he's doing it against great competition as well. And, yes, Kansas City's offense has been on fire, but that does not in any way scare me away from Chris Sale tonight. If I'm playing cash games, and I'm sure I will be, Chris Sale will be my anchor for my cash games.
Yeah, he has to be. I mean, he's going to go – he's not – first of all, he's not going to get smashed. There's no way – I mean, I guess I shouldn't say no way, but David Price got crushed by the Yankees last night.
Sale's better than Price, though. I'll say that.
So yeah. So, I mean, Sale tonight against the Royals, and I love that he's at home. I love taking pitchers at home. I mean, I'm a big believer in, playing at home, so I'm a big fan of Sale tonight. He's going to get you 6 innings. He's going to get you 6 Ks. That's what you're getting. And, I mean, who are you going to take tonight instead of him? Yordano Ventura? You're not taking Tillman or Hutchinson, Jesse Chavez, or you're going to take Odorizzi, Buchholz. So, honestly, you're either Buchholz or Sale in cash games.
Yeah, and on paper, it looks like actually a tough matchup for Chris Sale. The Royals so far this season actually off to a nice start against lefties. They've got a 366 team WOBA and are striking out just 11% of the time. But Chris Sale, 30.4% strikeout rate last year. Just to put that in perspective, Clayton Kershaw's was 31% roughly. So still one of the best strikeout pitchers in the game. I in no way am scared off by that matchup or their hot start against lefties or against anyone else. It's still going to be Chris Sale for me, and I think you agree. And some of these Chicago bats certainly in play. You want to get yourself some exposure to Jose Abreu. Yordano Ventura, we know, has been wild at times. He has kind of kept it under control so far this year. 1 walk, 2 walks, 2 walks, but did get beaten around pretty bad in Oakland last time out in 3 1/3. He's not a guy that pitches deep into games because he throws too many pitches. And, if he's wild with his control, you obviously can't stack on FanDuel or on DraftKings either the whole White Sox lineup because Abreu and LaRoche are both first base eligible. But, I mean, that's an easy decision right there. If you're going to be getting yourself a power bat here, it's got to be Jose Abreu.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, Abreu just crushes the ball. You want to be contrarian, then put LaRoche in. You want, and it's not going to hurt you. I mean, I almost kind of favor it on a short slate to be contrarian because everyone's going to play Abreu. So if you're GPPing, yeah, you're going to lose because Abreu's a better baseball player. But the time that LaRoche does hit a home run and Abreu goes 0 for 4 or 1 for 4 with a single, you just gained a significant edge on the field. So on a short slate, I actually think I prefer LaRoche in GPPs.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good thing to keep in mind when you're building your GPPs on a short slate like this. Is it's really hard to be different, and if you find the guy that's different, that does hit a home run or has a 3 for 4 game, a couple RBIs, something like that, pays off huge dividends. And I think that obviously hitting is going to be where you're going to differentiate. I'm not going to go too crazy with my pitching. I mean, the guys that we mentioned are in play, not touching the Oakland, LA guys, and really just not a fan of either of the Baltimore or Toronto games. So pretty much for me, it's going to be Odorizzi, Sale, and Buckholes, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk, Saturday is a perfect example. Saturday early slate, White Sox played. I can't think of who they were playing against. Saturday was early slate.
I think it was Detroit, wasn't it?
I think it was Detroit too.
Yeah, it was
Alfredo?
It was Detroit.
Who pitched? Alfredo Simon?
No, I don't think Simon pitched. I think Simon pitched Sunday.
Is who pitched Saturday?
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, regardless, you had a first base choice: LaRoche or Abreu. LaRoche got to it first, and he made a great play. Then Abreu hit a grand slam. If either of those guys fail, you can see the edge that happened. So very rarely are you going to see that where they both score 30 fantasy points on DK, 10, 11 on FanDuel. That's not going to happen often.
Yeah. Oh,
so
it was
being
Sanchez.
different,
That's who it was.
It was Sanchez. Yeah. So I mean that shows you what being contrarian does. If you have, and note, the winner of all GPs had either Abreu or LaRoche at their first base. Yeah. So essentially, if you played LaRoche, who was much lower owned, and Abreu doesn't go grand slam, you just gained an edge on 99% of the field.
Yeah, that's a great point. So keep that in mind while building your lineups tonight. That's going to wrap things up for us. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com. Follow us on Twitter at DFCafe. We will see you guys tomorrow.